Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. We're entering the 6th month of the war in Ukraine, and our guest today is Dmytro Kuleba. He's Ukraine's foreign minister. He joins us from the capital, Kyiv. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Minister.
The pleasure is mine.
Mr. Kuleba, we're seeing these days Russian bombardments in the south. There's also talk of a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Kherson area in the south of Ukraine. Is this, in your eyes, where the war will be decided, maybe even more than in Donbass?
No, the war will be decided on each square kilometer of the front line. And I would like to tell you that the overall length of the front line in Ukraine is more than 2,000 kilometers. And we have to squeeze Russia out from Ukraine along the entire front line. But the current battles and fighting in the south is very important. Also in terms of the security of the functioning of the grain channel that was recently agreed on in Istanbul.
Right. There's talk among Ukrainian officials of a counter-offensive in the month of September. Is this the plan, really, to retake land, especially in the southern region that is so key in many areas?
Well, it would be weird if Ukraine had no plans for counteroffensives. Of course, our strategy is to stop the Russian offensive in the east and go on the counteroffensive. And because the goal of this war is to liberate Ukraine from Russian occupiers and to restore our territorial integrity.
Right. Speaking of the objectives of the war, your counterpart in Moscow, Sergei Lavrov, recently stated quite clearly, maybe for the first time, that the objective of Russia is more than the Donbass.
We have known it from the very first day of the invasion that the objective of Russia is all Ukraine. What Minister Lavrov and other Russian officials do, they're just, arranging a smoke screen. One day they speak about their openness to negotiations, and on the other day they speak about their goals to conquer more Ukrainian territories. Moreover, we also see that Russia is preparing for de facto annexation of the newly occupied territories of Ukraine in the south and in the east. So the strategy of Russia is obvious.
Right. Are you expecting Russia to organize a so-called referendum in those areas Russia took control of in the coming weeks?
It's one of the options. They have not finalized, the scenario, how they're going to stage all these referendums, because we all understand that they will be staged. But so basically, the objective is clear for them to absorb these territories, but the way they will do it is still under discussion.
Right. You mentioned the importance of export, especially agricultural export. There was an agreement brokered by Turkey. The United Nations signed a few days ago, allowing the export of grain through Black Sea ports. We then saw Russia bombing the port of Odessa, but it seems at the time we're speaking now that the deal is still on, correct?
The deal is on for Ukraine, for the United Nations, for Turkey. I would like to assure that Ukraine will do everything it can to make sure that this deal works and that Ukrainian agricultural products reach world markets and help combat hunger and rising prices for food in Africa, in Asia, and in other parts of the world. What remains to be seen is how Russia will behave. And we count that it's the United Nations and Turkey who have made sure that Russia sticks to its obligations.
Right. I mean, we're hearing that a joint coordination center is about to open in Istanbul to facilitate the implementation of that deal. So it seems, as we're told right now, there's still enough level of trust to believe in this agreement, correct?
Well, it's difficult to speak about trust when you deal with Russia, but Ukraine has trust in the United Nations and Turkey and in itself, in our capacity to defend ourselves from Russia. So hopefully our trilateral efforts will help to keep Russia on board.
Right. Speaking of the willingness of Ukraine to defend itself, there's a willingness to get more weapons, more sophisticated weapons. There's been a lot of talk about the so-called high mobility artillery rocket system known as HIMARS. The U.S. has given you 12. It offered 4 more, but it seems you would need much more to be able to change the situation on the battleground.
We need more. We need these weapons rather sooner than later, and we need it from different countries. So, of course, everyone is following news coming from the United States because they provide us with this HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems, but other countries are helping us with weapons. One of them is France. And the biggest challenge for us now is to speed up deliveries.
Right. There's another challenge. It seems it's the range of these weapons. We know that the U.S., other countries are reluctant to give you enough range because they fear that you will strike Russia. Do you believe that this is absolutely necessary for you to be able to defend yourself and that this Western reluctance is not justified?
Well, this reluctance is arguable. We can discuss it, and we do discuss this issue with partners. However, we also have to respect their view and how they assess the situation. Our goal is not to attack Russia. Our goal is to free our territory, and this is where every discussion on weapons should start and end.
Right. There was an announcement by Gazprom that there will be new cuts in gas deliveries to Europe. This Tuesday, Russian energy ministers have agreed to reduce Russian gas consumption. What's your take on what some are describing as a gas blackmail, a gas war by Russia against Europe?
It's all part of the same war. In Ukraine, Putin fights with missiles and tanks. In Europe, he fights with gas prices and inflation. The goal of Putin is the same both in Ukraine and in Europe, is to knock on every door and to enter every family and to make our lives miserable. He just achieves this goal by different means, but his plan is the same for all of us. And I only hope that governments and societies in the European Union will understand what he's trying to do and will not lean under the pressure and under the blackmail of Putin, because it's impossible to make a deal with him. He doesn't. It's either us or him.
Right, but aren't you concerned? We're entering the 6th month of the war. It seems on the front lines, the situation is more or less stagnant, that there will be Ukraine fatigue, if I may use the expression, in Western European countries, because they will think about the gas prices, the price of electricity, winter coming, and they'll think, you know what, maybe we should think about heating our homes rather than arming the Ukrainians.
I don't think there is a choice between heating houses and arming Ukraine. I strongly object bringing the link that someone has to choose. These are two separated processes, and we are fighting the war. I cannot impose any opinion or narrative on people living in Europe. If they decide that it's safer to try to make a deal with Putin, they are free to do it. But the truth is that they will not succeed, and those politicians, because Putin will take it as a sign of weakness, and he will only increase the pressure. But if there are those who are willing to try that model, fine. First, you make a concession to Putin, and then your lifestyle is ruined because Putin wants to grab more. We will be fighting our war because we are fighting not only for ourselves, for our country, but also for the ability of Europeans to live in peace and prosperity.
Just as the last question, Dmytro Kuleba, in addition to weapons, sophisticated weapons, what do you need from Europe and from the West right now?
We need stamina. Not for us. We have stamina. We need Europeans and people in the West to have stamina as well.
Dmytro Kuleba, thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview, and thank you all for watching it.